Right. So this is effectively our lecture number 9, right? And we are in week 6. So week 6 will have lecture 8 and 9 files, and both of them are will be available over here. Lecture 8 is already available. Lecture 9 will be available after today's class with the video link and with the class code that we'll be doing today. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And so today we'll talk about some of the very interesting aspects. Number one, but before going into that, let's talk about midterm in a bit of detail. I told you that I'll be talking about the midterm today. So let me just pull that up. I have just stopped sharing my screen intentionally because I want to just guide you about the mid exam. So mid exam is going to help. Someone knows when it is going to help? Does someone know that when we are going to have our mid exam? 5th July. Yes, thank you very much, Monarch. So it will be on 5th July, and I want you people to just so understand few things. So there will be around 20 questions. Number one, what will be the content and what we will cover from that one? So whatever we will discuss till today's class, right, till the end of today's class, will be included in the midterm. If you ask about the content, it effectively means I'm talking about this lecture 9, and till wherever we'll be done with that. I might have a little session, like a short session today, but anyhow I'll try to complete some very important concepts. But anyhow, so wherever we'll reach, it has 37 slides, but wherever we'll reach, I'll just stop it there, and I'll just remove all the rest of the slides and add them to the next one. And it means that we are not going to have our so contents will be till this lecture 9. And in other words, if you see that I showed you the the week 6. So whatever we will discuss till week 6 will be included in your mid exam, so to speak. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Now, with respect to questions, what type of questions you will get? That's an interesting point. Now, please bear in mind that with respect to questions, you might get some of the theoretical logical explanations. For example, if I take an example from yesterday's class, you might be asked that what is the difference between method hiding and maybe method overriding, for example. I'm just giving an example. It won't be that simple anyhow, but anyhow. So what is the difference between method hiding and method overriding? You must know logically the concept that how to differentiate between those two. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And so at some points you might be asked, for example, you might be asked what is the difference between for loop and for each loop. That might be a potential question for you. So like that, so you will have certain questions that would be asking your theoretical understanding of the concepts. And there might be some questions that will be asking, or that will be checking your some of the programming concepts. Now, what part you can prepare for if you are preparing for the programming part? So the most important part are our lab files, the lab 1 solution, lab 1 exercise files, and lab 2 exercise files, the one that you're working on right now. So these two, as well as assignment as well. So for programming purpose, you might be asked from those assignment or maybe 2 lab sessions. Does that make sense to everyone? Looks like I'm talking to wall. There's no one responding after Monarch response. Monarch says 5th July. Okay, thank you. Looks like I'm talking to alive human beings. Thank you. So basically what I'm saying is that the programming questions, they will be testing your ability and more or less the same of the same complexity level that you have done lab 1, lab 2, as well as the assignment 1. You might be asked something from that one. So a very important thing, maybe of course you would have done your assignment yourself, but anyhow you need to know concepts very clearly when it comes to your midterm exam, right? So your midterm exam will be another test for your assignment and lab sessions in the programming part. So I've told you there will be 20 questions altogether, right? And so you will have, how much time I've allocated, let me just see, and I'll let you know that how much time I'll be giving for the exam. Yeah, so it's almost a 2 hour, it will be a 2 hour exam, almost 110 minutes, and you'll be required to do that. If you have got any accommodation, I will just accept, settle your accommodation here, because some people they have been accommodated to have more time for that exam. So I will adjust that for them. Don't worry about that. If you are one like who has accommodations, I will just adjust these timings for you. So right, so that is the way that your exam is going to happen, that you will have 20 questions, a mix of maybe multiple choice. Sometime you might get some questions where there are multiple choice questions and you have to attempt them, like again select out of them one, or maybe you will be getting a question where you are logically tested, your concept is tested. As I said, an example maybe how do you differentiate between method overriding and method hiding, by the way, or maybe what is the difference between inheritance and polymorphism, so to speak, anything. So you will be asked from that in your logical test, like again theoretical logical test, and then your programming concepts, as I said, that those who the things that have already been tested for you, and those things were the assignment or the lab sessions that you've done. So you will have to just work on those little assignment, like programming assignments as well, programming questions as well, that you will be working. So again, with respect to content, I've told you that whatever we will discuss till today's class will be included. Do you people have any question related to mid exam? I want to take that question now, and then we will just move. Anyone, any question, or we are good to go? Yep, I'm waiting for a question, or maybe how to take up some. Oh yes, so Cynthia, in the beginning when we had this pandemic and everything, we used to use basically the lockdown monitor and lockdown browser as well. But with the passage of time, because of some reasons or others, we have just we are not using that anymore. So it all boils down to your honesty now during the exams, and of course our effort is to make um, exam in a way that you need to have. Okay, there was another question. I'll see, Baldeep, your question. I can see your question. I just saw last one first. So your exam will be, again, it won't be a lockdown browser or lockdown monitor. You will be allowed to just use anything, but again it all boils down to your honesty now, and you will have to just work on it. And as I said, we just try to make questions in a way that you really need to work hard on that, and you come up with that. So how exam? Yes, the exam will be during the class time. You are right. So early morning, 8 o'clock, we have this exam on Monday, and that's why I've just placed it on Monday, because I know that most of you are many of you are not in this time zone, the Canada time zone, and I can understand. Other than only, I think with the exception of China, maybe, or maybe China is also, they also like this time also favors them. I don't know, but I know that in India and Pakistan and at that side of the world, this morning 8 o'clock, suits everyone. Why? Because that is usually the evening time over there. Am I correct? So all those in India, and if there is someone on the other part, on that part of the world, so basically this time suits everybody. So we have yes, this will be in class time, Baldeep. The answer is your yes, class time. Any other question related to your mid exam, and then we will just move forward if you say no, or there is no question. Okay, this is the most unresponsive class that I have during this semester. I'm really surprised, because I have the other courses. Their students are always so, vocal. Mostly, they just, unmute themselves and start speaking, by the way. And you are also allowed to do so. Not very frequently, but of course, this always be. But this is the most top silent class that I've got maybe in last 2 years. At times, it starts like, I start feeling that I'm talking to walls again and again. Anyhow, no problem. And by the way, right now I'm talking about one of the very most important part of your your course, that's going to be in our exam. Anyhow, so I'm considering that now you people don't have any questions. I understand. And now I will be just moving forward, and I will share my screen and start our topics for today. Right. So participants now can see my screen. So can you see my lecture slides, high quality software programming? Thank you very much, Deep. I am happy that you are at least replying, and there are others also replying. Thank you very much. Okay. So now, so this is our, as I said, so yes, you can use the ID if you want, no problem, because you want to test your logic or you want to check that. Yes, you can use that, right? All right. So a recap: prior to this lecture, we have worked on C# as development language, which also touched some of the object-oriented design and programming. We have talked about some object-oriented design and programming. About 10 years ago, that would have been enough to program in C#. So again, C# has come all the way from being very simple, or from being very, traditional sort of object-oriented world to a much more advanced animal, right? So about 10 years ago, the concept that we have discussed, that would have been fine. We know that how to make a class, we know how to create an object of that class, we know how to do method overriding, how we know how to do method overloading, we know what is encapsulation, we have talked about properties, we have talked about different types of properties, we have talked about the getters and setters and things like that. So they would have been enough. But as we say that these are not enough in this current era, we need to touch some of the very, very interesting and important and advanced shapes that are existing in this world right now. So we'll be checking on that. So today we'll talk about quick word on lists. I missed that out. I had to discuss that somewhere before, but I just missed that out. So I'll just, I have a quick word on lists. This is very interesting. And why I'm doing this? Because I'll be needing that today in some of the concepts. And does anyone remember where did we stop last class? Because let's see if you people were in the class till the end. Where did I end? And I said I'll start from this point. I'm not starting from that point, by the way. So just to make you aware that what we are doing, because sometimes you might get confused. So you remember what we did in the end towards the end of our class yesterday? Interface. You're right. You're right. Thank you very much. Yes, interface. Yeah. You're right. Interface we're talking about. So I will discuss interfaces today, but I thought before discussing interfaces, there are a few interesting, important things that we'll be discussing, and then we'll be jumping to the interfaces again. Yes, I have discussed interfaces yesterday. I've discussed their inheritance in one way or other, that if a class can inherit from the interface, what will happen. So today we'll see the real world application of interface, and we'll see that how we will be using those interfaces for our thing. So today we'll talk about lists. First of all, you'll find that interesting. Lists are very interesting, and you'll find that interesting. Secondly, we'll talk about delegates, then lambdas, etc., which became important part of today's programming. So we'll be talking about the delegates, lambdas, and this might sound a bit unfamiliar to even those who have already worked in programming. But again, these are the concepts that we need to learn if you want to just work in today's dynamic programming world of C#. So we'll be just looking at some of those concepts, and we'll find, as I said, we'll find them very interesting one. So interfaces and abstract classes. Then we'll talk about interfaces and abstract classes, all important abstract classes that I told you, and we'll be just talking about those as well. Right. So this is the agenda for today, and as I said, whatever point we will reach at, we'll just stop there, and we will have our exam on that basis. Right. So lists, first of all, lists. Okay, so lists in C#. So list is something very interesting, and this is one one thing that will take us towards the collection and things like that, and I'll discuss them as well in the future. But today, since I'll be needing the list, I'll just talk about the list first, and then we'll just see how we can just develop. So list and this strange syntax of using these curly less than greater than sign, and then using a T. So list T is a class in C# presents a strongly typed list of objects. List of T provides functionality to create a list of objects, find list items, sort list, search list, and manipulate list items. Right? So list is something collection, or maybe you can call a list of objects. When you want to list or collect some of the different objects, you create list in C#. What is the benefit of creating list? For creation of list, usually in our programming, what do we do to make a collection in a programming language without list or before list? What we usually do to create lists in a programming language? Arrays. Yes, you're right. You remember we have talked about we create arrays, and they were a very good way of defining for defining the elements. Remember, we can create arrays. So today we'll see another way of creation of collection of list of objects. How we, and you remember in last class also we created the list of objects of arrays of objects. You remember in our one of the program we did that in our last class. So here we are talking about the lists in C#, and we'll be talking about creation. So we'll see that how, like, why arrays are not good in idea, or why this list will be a good idea. Right? So we'll talk about that. Then we have the T in the list. What is this T in this list? This list of T contains in present T class in present a strongly typed list of objects. List T provides functionality to create. Okay, this is just the repetition, and I think I've done that by mistake. And this should not be maybe there. Right. So in list T is a type of objects, right? And this represents the type of objects. In list T is the type of objects, and it's just repetitive. Why? I don't know. It's copied and pasted by mistake. Right. So now we are saying that T is the type of objects. What type of objects I want to create? This represents the T. Is anyone of you who has worked in C? Yes, you are right, generic. That's what my question was. So has anyone worked in C++ before, and they know about something called what it reminds you people? If you have worked in C++, I'm asking to those who know about C++ and who have already worked in a bit of this. You are right. Generic means you are saying that whatever data type I'll give it, it will just initialize according to that. So what in C++ basically represents this concept? Anyone remembers? Mukul, if you remember, or anyone else? What in C++ was used or represented this one? Yeah. Who will come up with the answer? User defined data type, typecasting. Okay, anyone else? That's good. That's good try. I want some more maybe ideas. I worked in Java. It is to make objects type safe. Okay, that's good. So now listen about that. It was templates in C++. If you remember, there was something called the templates in C++, and there is a template class where we just create all those templates. If you have not worked in that, no problems. There is something called a template. So maybe I don't exactly know about this type safe in Java. So maybe that's the same concept over there. Anyhow, but you see here, this T represents a generic type. Whatever type I'll give, it will just create a list of that one. Yes, exactly. So T will be the data type of that one. So how to create a list in C#? Just let me remove the drawing. So how to create a list in C#? First of all, we need to add this system.collections.generic. This is a generic class, and this is the system collection generic collection. We need to import this one first of all in our program, and then list int 16. Int 16, int 32. We have got all those numeric types. So list int 16 list is equal to new list. It will create with default capacity. There will be like again the zero element or the default zero elements in this list of integer type, and you can keep on adding to the elements, and that those elements will be added to the list, and they'll just keep on adding to it. So this T, this is the T here. T is what? The data type, the type on which you are creating this list or instantiating this list to just to exactly So this is the syntax of creating that list, and this this bracket signs and the type of the data that you want to create. So I want to create a list of integers, and how many I'm not referencing. It means that default size will be created over here. On the other hand, if I create list of string authors equal to new list string, again database data type, and now here if you see in the brackets I've given 5. So by 5 I mean what? The size of the list. So I want to say that I want to have 5 elements in my list, right? So I can do something like that as well, right? And then what we are doing over here is that if you see that string animals, and we are just creating these elements, and when you just pass into that, it will just create according to that particular size how many animals that you have, right? So what is specifically a thing that we want to create a list, and with that different data types that you have. Oh, I need to just remove the drawing. Now, how to create this list? List int, if you can just see that. So list int number list is equal to new list. So I'm just creating a new number list, and if you want to add something to it, you will just do number list dot add dot add dot add. Dot add is a function that you can use to add values to it. You can add the values, whatever values you want. If you see here that we have created a list of string authors, new list string, and I will just creating the names of the authors, and these 5 authors will be 5 or 6 authors will be added to this one. So now an interesting part, I think you will be familiarizing yourself. If it was created as an array, this number list was an array over here, right? And there is no size being given. So for array, first of all, I have to give the size. Typically, for array, this is required that you need to give the size, number 1. Number 2, you cannot go above 5. You will go 0 to 4 indexes, and then you cannot add anything more. If you'll add, and I'll show you the example. So one of the advantage of list over here, list dynamically grows up. List dynamically grows up, while as arrays dynamically do not grow up. Does that make sense to everyone? One of the advantage, and I'll show you an example, a little example over there as well, that we will just try to implement that one, right? So list dynamic. So I can create a list, and I can just add this items to the list. This is something typically we'll be doing. And as I said, today we'll have an example where we'll be doing all these things. And how to read a list? If you want to read a list, you can just use for each loop. You remember, for each is always very good because you don't know how many authors are there. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 authors. And so if I run this for each string A in authors, you remember we have talked about, and if you just do that, you will get that one. So let's start doing an example over here maybe. And I want you people to just, I'm just starting a new project, and we'll be just doing this for the week 6 projects. Okay. Oh, that is already existing. It means that we have that one yesterday. So I'll just go and open that one rather than creating a new. I'll just open the previous one. Open recent file. Yes, we created a week 6 lecture yesterday. Week 6. All right. So I'm expecting you people also will have this program from yesterday. I am expecting that. All right. My laptop is about to open the project, hopefully. Yeah, now it's responding. Okay, so let me just bring that one to you. Okay, so we talked about the interfaces yesterday. I'm just right now, I'm just removing that at all, and we'll just work on that one again, and removing this employee class as well, and then this class example as well. I don't need that, and I am even. So again, this all we might be doing that again. Just no worries about that. So we are in a start of a fresh program. So now, this is our program right now, and as we have seen that we can create the lists in a way that we can just create. So let's start creating this list, and we have discussed that what we need to have if you want to create a list. So first of all, what I need to do is that we need to add system dot collection dot generic, right? So first of all, add that one, system dot collection dot generic, right? And now we can just create one of the example lists that we have done, and then I will show you an example of a class as well, because these are all the predefined data types. They are the system defined data types, and now we'll be just creating our own user defined data type as well. So we'll be just talking about that as well. So now let's create a list. So list keyword is used first of all, and then the data type over here, what type of list I want to create. And as in our example, we'll see authors equal to new list, and I want to create a string. And now if you want to give a size, I can give a size over here of 5, right? So now if you want to add something to the list, what we'll do, authors dot add. So we have got the add, and I can add any author, Alan Smith, my favorite name on this. So let's copy and paste this one and add few items to it. And as I said, I will just give you an example of the class also. So just add 4.1 and interesting, just to make it separate, right? So just changing the index numbers of Allen's, we have got 4 Allen. Okay, so now what we have done is that we have just created a string, created a list of string values, and I am just keeping on adding to that list. So now once they are added, as we have talked about, if you want to just print them out, you know that to print them, what we can do is that we can use for each, and what will do, string a in authors. So you remember what is that? The authors is my list, the given list, and this a is the variable that will catch every one out of them. So now I want to just print them. So console dot write line, and I want to just print an a, or maybe the author is placeholder a, right? So I have to print a over here, right? So now let's run that one. All right, so you see that it's basically just bringing up everything over here. So all those were the 4 items, and like those items that I've stored, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those 5 items are coming over here. And what if I want to add some more items to it? What do you people think? Will it give some error? Rather, I have that copy there. So I've just pasted that one again, and I'm saying Allen 5 and Smith 5. And yet again, I want to add another element. What do you people think? Will it run or no? Okay, so you say no error, it will run. Of course, yes. So why is that? I've told you that it dynamically creates, and it can dynamically extend its size. And we all know about the concept of arrays, that arrays will never allow you to run that one. Okay, not the file. This should run. So it's showing me all the Smiths, all the Allen and Smith that I have. So this is the dynamic sizing. Yes, you're right. So this will be a dynamic size, and it will always accommodate that. So this is a predefined data type. Of course, we know about these predefined data types. Now let's talk about a small example for a class as well. Let's talk about a class as well. I'm just making it a comment, and I am creating a class over here. So for example, let's create a class employee or something. You can create anything, whatever you want. And do you people remember the? Let me just ask you. Let's see how many of you are do remember our yesterday's lecture. Oh, sorry. Why so much space in between? Anyhow, to just adjust it. So what I do is that I'll say that string name integer. For example, you can say salary, whatever. Just keep that to the core. The values maybe. Okay, so if you see here, I have created a class. And what are these three things? Anyone? I'm asking to those new to the programming who just had yesterday's lecture and they did not know before. What we have created, automatic setter and getter. Anyone? Properties. You are right, Deep, that these are automatic getter and setters. But you remember these are the properties. And what is the typical type of these properties? We discussed different types of properties. Yeah, there were some read properties, some read write properties, some write properties, and the fourth one. These are the fourth one. Auto implemented. Thank you very much. Auto implemented properties. And what is the feature of that? Whenever I will use this ID, name, or salary, there will be an anonymous field created. An anonymous private field will be created, and that field will have the data of this ID or whatever. I'm happy that you people at least remember that one. Right now just you will have a quick reminder of the yesterday's lecture. So I'm creating now employee and not creating a typically I'm just trying to create or maybe certain objects for this one. EMP1, and I want to create, right? So what I do is that EMP1 equal to new employee. What I'm doing over here, yes, from the yesterday's lecture, just a repetition. What I am doing here, which technical concept I'm using over here of defining this object? Anyone remembers? What typical concept I'm using over here? Who will answer that? Object initializers. Yes, thank you very much. So object initializers. ID is equal to 1, comma, name equal to Bob, comma, salary equal to 5,000, whatever. Right? So I've just created one object. Let's create maybe two more objects. So now I will create EMP2, and I'll see that how we can just create a list of it, right? EMP3, if it is 2, it can be Christina or whatever, Charlie, and it can be 2,000, and it can be Doug, and the salary will be 2,000 anyhow. So we have just created 3 employees, right? Using object initializer. Thank you very much, Vinny. You have just given the right answer by just creating this, these one. So we have created these 3 objects over here, right? And now I want to create an array of this one, right? So let's create an array. First of all, again, not creating the list, rather creating array. And I'll show you that what problem you might get. So I'm creating an employee type of array. Employees equal to new employee, and I want the size to be, for example, 2. Right? So I'm just setting up the size of 2. Got everyone? And now doing all these manually, at the 0th location, I can store one of the element, our object EMP1. I'm just storing that EMP1, and same goes with 2 and 3. So this is 1. This is 2. This is 2. and this is 3. Will it run successfully? Anyone? Okay. Anyone else? Rashmi, I would be expecting your answer in the end. It won't run. Deep, why? Why it won't run? Why it will have some problem? Yes, it is a fixed size of 2. If I try to run that, if I want to build that, it might just build successfully. Maybe it says build successful. There is no problem in building that one. But now, if I want to run this program, there will be a runtime error. Of course, the exception that we are. And what is that exception? Index out of range exception. Right? So array does not grow in the size, and that's why it will never do what I am trying to do over here. Now, if I just change this one and just leave this as it is, I'm leaving this as it is for the time being and just making a comment and keeping rest everything. So now if I create a list and I say employee type. So here what I'm doing, I'm creating a list of employee type. Now it's not integer, it's not a string, it's not anything, but what? My class that I've created. So my data type, right? So employees equal to new list employees. And what you can do is that you can just give a, I'm just giving a fixed size again, right? So I've just given a fixed size again. Did I do something wrong? No. Oh, employee, not employees. Right, so I've created another list. Now what I want to do, I want to add into it employees dot add. So what I want to add, emp1. And in the same way, I want to just add the rest of the things. So add is one of the function over here, add of the one of the method that will just do that. So emp2, emp3. And again, here I'm just breaking up a little rule that I've just given a 2 size and I'm adding 3 elements. Will it run or not? Of course, you people know now about that. Now it will run successfully. And why it will run successfully? Because we have already seen that basically the list, it automatically grows, and we are not printing that list. So let me just print that list for you, and we can just, so for each we can just run, so employee, no fixed size issue. Yes, dynamic in nature, you are right. So it's basically dynamic in nature. Employee in employees, right? So we want to access employee in employees. Spelling is wrong. And now what I can do is that I can just print these E just to add, or just to add those one. Now, so I want to just print that one. So run it. So yes, that is one of the, oh, work 6 years not employee. All right, so I have to just do what? It's this E is basically is just mentioning that one. And if I want to just display that data, what I'll need to do is I'll need to just access that data and print that maybe in that one. So 0, there are 3 values here, 0 and 1 and sorry, and it's 2, right? So I'm just taking this one. And what is the reference variable? We have got e dot id I want to print, e dot name I want to print, and e dot what is that, salary, right? Now yes, run that. So of course it was just giving us that. So Bob 1, Bob 5,000, to Charlie 2,000. I did not change the ID of this one, Doug. So Doug is also having this one ID. So that is the value over here. You can just change that. It's a logical problem. Anyhow, so what it is happening is that it is just giving us that feature of accessing those typical things. And this type, what we talk about, this type is another very interesting one. And one of the important aspect about this is that if I create a child of this class, now if I create a child of this class and I say part-time, right, and I am creating this child of our employee class. Okay, I used, I think, a semicolon, a column, full column, and let's create this one as a child class, right? So I just create a child class and its name is part-time. So if I create an object of this one now, part-time PT employee equal to new part-time. I've created a PTEMP, right? Part-time employee. So can I add to this employees list? Question is this. Now let's check it. Employees dot add. What I want to add? PTEMP. Can I add this PTEMP over here? Let's check that one. And let's run this after this one. And I'm running this after this one. So let's see that if it adds that one as well. So what is happening is, of course, we have just created a part-time employee class and it's not giving us any error. So that means now this child. So this type represents the type represents all the employee, and if it is the child class of this one. And what if I just take out this employee from this class? Where is that class? Okay, where is that class? This is the class. So if I just take out this employee from this part-time, this is a new class. Now I will have this squiggly error over here. And what is this error? It says that part-time PTEMP cannot convert V6 part-time to week 6 employer. It cannot convert by default. You can, you can always convert that into this one, or if you want, you can just do lots of things by together, and you will just add that one. Clear, everyone? So it's this class, or maybe if there is a child of it, it will accept that in the list, but otherwise it won't accept anything in that list. And if you just try to add that, it will just give you an error, and it is just added that one to our classes. So list is very important, and that's what we have to, we will be needing that. So I just wanted to give you a quick introduction of list. Now you people understand the list, because we'll be using this list every now and then in today's lecture. Understand, everyone? No fixed size, their size can be, and I've done something like, I've just written down something. Do some more research on list today in the lab timing. So I will just give you towards the end. As I said, I'll keep this a short session today. So I'll give you a time, and you can just do that in your lab timings. You will be just doing that, implementing that one, right? Right. So now we want to start something called a delegates. Very interesting concept, a bit complex, but again, if we just try to understand the concept, the real sense behind that, it will become very easy, and it gives us a whole lots of new world of working with something. So delegate was known since, do not want to scare you, because as a pointer to a function. So basically delegates are typically pointer to the function. Anyone here who has worked in delegates before? Who knows about it? Yes, anyone in this session who has worked on delegates before, or who knows delegates? Okay, someone says no. What about others? Okay, so there are lots of no or IDKs. Those people who have worked in C# before, have they worked in delegates before? Okay, so now listen about that. It's a very interesting concept. Let me tell you, it's something like, first of all, it might, in the beginning, it might sound stupid to you. There will be a function ABC. There will be a function ABC. I've defined a method of ABC. What I'll do is that I'll create a delegate something, and this will act as a pointer to this function. Okay, so are you people, I think I have just named pointers before as well. Do you people remember what were the pointers? Like in general, in programming language, what are the pointers? So pointers are special variables that point to some other location. They do not have like their own value, rather they point to some other location. Okay, this IDK is for the previous concept or for the pointers. Let me just know. So how many of you know about the pointers? Do you people understand what I'm saying? That if there is a pointer variable, this pointer points to another location which can store an integer value. I'm talking about the C concept first of all. How many people are familiar with the pointer? In general, if you are familiar, you can just let me know. Okay, you know about that. That's good. That's good. That's very good. So now see here. That's good. There are lots of people who know about that. Again, I have not heard from IDK, anyone. But if you do not know specifically, I'll just let you know some of the concepts you'll understand after today's session. So delegates are the pointers to the functions, pointers to the method. Okay, little bit. So delegates will represent a pointer to the method. What we do is we define a method, We use a pointer to point to that method, and by using that pointer or the delegate, we will access or we will just try to work on that function that we have defined. As I said, it might look or might sound stupid in the beginning that why the hell in the world we are doing all these things? Why not just calling function directly? I will show you how important it is and what it can do for you. First of all, just listen the concept. Delegate was known since so beginning, do not want to scare you, as a pointer to a function. So they are basically pointer to the function. Usually delegate is used as a declaration of a method signature, which can be applied to any number of methods. So delegate is used as a declaration of a method signature. So we talked about signature yesterday as well, and we'll talk about that. What are the method signatures? And we can just mention that that method signature over here as well. And delegate will be used as the method signature over here. And we can apply that to any number of methods. One of the most common use of delegates is handling events. So this is very important. And please bear in mind, this is something in the later part of the course we'll be handling it. So I will be asking you that the handler, the delegate concept, and we'll be using that in events in Windows, ASP.NET, and other Microsoft GUI. So for a GUI base, we'll be using those delegates a lot, using delegates to execute functions. Right. So now let's see about something more about the delegate. Declaring a delegate. Declaring a delegate is quite an easy sort of thing. If you see here in the namespace, in the top of it, like our before our all methods, what we are doing in this namespace, we are defining public delegate, void, my delete, my delegate, and I'm defining a delegate function. So let's just come back over here and we'll try to do that. Okay, let me just for the time being, I'm making them comment, and if I'll be needing them, I'll just All right. So what we do, we try to first of all create a delegate. We try to define a delegate, and let me just put it on the side and then talk about that one. All right. So when we have to just define a delegate, what we do is where we will just say public delegate. Delegate is a keyword to define a delegate, right? And now what I'll say is that, for example, if I'm defining something like this, void my delegate and int a. Now please bear in mind what I said, that delegates are the pointer to the function. So it means I am creating this delegate to point to a function. Very important to note, point to a function whose signature is something like this, the signature of the function. And you remember I talked about signature, the name of the parameter, but here please bear in mind, for the delegate will be taking care of the return type as well. By the way, signature does not include the return type, but here I'll say that you have to take care of the return type as well when you are defining a delegate. So this delegate can point to a function. Let's just close all the not needed sort of things. So it means that I can use this delegate to point to a function that has this complete signature, including the return type, that will not return anything, and that will only accept one integer value. Is that right? Are you people getting that? So I'm just defining this as a delegate over here. Now let's define a method for which we are defining this one. So see public, and let's make it a static as well, so that we don't need to just every now and then create the object. My method, I'm just creating another method which accepts one integer. I'm creating a method over here, right? And what it does is just does nothing. Console.write line, and it prints out that x, whatever x is received. Right? So there is a method which is basically this method, my method. I've defined a method, and this defined is this method is doing nothing right now. I'll give you a very practical example what we can do with the methods, but right now this is just, I want you to understand the concept. Okay. Do you see one thing, that the syntax or the signature including return type is basically same to this one, and that is important. I want to make this delegate to point to this function, so I have to have same signature including return type for this method for which I'm just creating this. Everyone getting that? And I've defined this as a public static so that I do not need to create the object of a class to access this method, right? So now let's talk about this one. If I want to use this delegate over here, right? So what I'll do is that I'll create a reference for my del. What is this my del? This is my delegate that I've created, that I want to create, right? And I want to create one access to it. My del d is equal to. Now, what I'll do, that I have to I can pass the name of the method that I want this del to refer to. So if you know the pointer, it's more like I'm just defining the reference of my method to it, right? And now if I do something like that, d of 1, right? So what is that? D of 10, for example, whatever, take a value. Now let's run this one. You see, it's showing the 10, and there's no big deal. There's no rocket science involved. What is the rocket science over here that you need to understand? And I want you people to just keep that in mind. Is that this is a delegate with the name of my delegate. This my delegate is pointing to a function, to a method. The method name is not important right now. The syntax or the signature is important. That this delegate will point to a method having that same signature, right? So this is basically, and you know what happens? Yes, you are right that my method is called. And now what is happening is that if I just go downward, I have just created a reference variable for this my delegate, my del, and I have passed the reference of this method, my method. So my method will be inside this. So when I say d of 10, basically I am accessing this my method function, and this my method function is called, right? So let's do that. I am my method function, right? And with this value, right? So now what I've done is that I've just mentioned this one so that I can understand and I can see that the output will be this my method will be called. Okay, just remove the drawing. So you see here, I am my method function with 10 value. The 10 value is coming from that one. So this is basically what. So this is again a very vague example, very simple example. I'll give you a very real example where we use that. But for that, I will just take a quick break. It's 2:01 now, and I'll take a quick break for 10 minutes, and I will be back at 2:11. Delegates can be directly under namespace or can be in a class. Okay, I'll talk about that, Monarch. After the break, I'll talk about break till to what is this one? So 2:11. So we started the concept of delegates, and again, as I said, that by this time it might be looking not that. So there was a question before we went into the break, and the question was, can we define it? Yes, you can define that inside the class as well. So I just defined it as a most global form of this before this class. So you can define that inside the class as well. But of course, this scope means that now it will be just accessible inside this. So it's up to you. You can just define that, and it won't create any problem for you. Right. So now let's talk about. So again, as I said, we'll be talking about a practical aspect of this. So it's running. It's very much running. So declaring a delegate, we have seen that. So declare and delegate, we have just defined declare, and we can have another method over here. I'm not using that one. So delegate is usually declared outside of any class. So usually we define that outside of a class, right? But you can define it inside of a class. It's not like, it won't hinder your your running, but try to do that, like, after that, if you see that the namespace, you try to define it before that one. But anyhow, it's up to you. The call to delegate is the call to method assigned to it. So actually we are doing what? We are basically following up the method, or we are calling that one. So another example over here, that same sort of employee class that we used, and here I'll be using the list as well. So what I'll do here is that I'll just try to create that example over here. And let me just, for the time being, I will just, just remove that one, and we'll just create another one. I'm just creating this, deleting this method as well, and just want to start afresh, and we'll be just, looking at them. So now we do not have any of them. So employee class, as I said, I'll be using this employee class. If I have that employee class over here, that would be very good. Yes, we have got this employee class. So I'll just uncomment it again. This is the benefit of keeping the code with you. So what I'm doing is that salary, or maybe you can just add one more. And what I say is that experience in years. So we are talking about a real example of, the delegates, how we can just use them, the delegates, more effectively. So now this is one class that has some certain features, like certain properties, by the way. So this ID property, this name property, salary, and then experience property. So all these properties are over here. And now what I'll do is that I'll just define a method over here, public static void. So we are talking about, again, for example, promoting employees. I want to create a function or a method that will that will try to promote employees. So it will just take the decision that whatever we want to have up, like, an employee should be promoted on the typical some of the meaning. So now what we are doing is that what we will be just trying to create this one, and we'll be trying to pass this method the list of employees that we'll have, right? And from that, out of that list of employees, what will you try to do is that, so first of all, what I'm doing is that I will be passing a list of employee over here, and employees, again, the same class that we are talking about, right? So I want to create this one, and I am calling it employee list. So this is one method that I'm creating that will accept a list of employees, right? So we are now familiar with the list, and we know what is the list. Now what I'm doing is that I say for each, right, employee, the class that we have, and employee in employee list. We want to implement something on that one. So what I'm telling you is that now there is a method that would be doing some action on that one, and we are right now creating it without any delegate. Without delegate, we are just trying to create a class. So what it does is that it checks, for example, if employee dot salary is less than, for example, 10,000. So I'm just taking a decision. You can take any decision on that. Is less than 10,000. What you do is that you do, so you the employee dot name, right? So we have got the name property, and we want to say that they have been promoted. The employee has been promoted, right? So method that will accept the list of employees, run through every employee. You see, for each loop, we can run through all the employees, and checking the salary of every employee. So if that salary is greater than 10,000, brother, maybe it's up to you. You can do any logic, but I'm just, salary is less than 10,000, we are promoting them. If salary is not greater than 1,000, we are not promoting them anyhow. So just you can have any other logic behind over here, and you can just use them. So this is one function that is doing that. This is one method that is doing that for us. Now let's come back to, I don't want this part-time employee class as well. So now I want to just run into my main function, and I want to create a list of employees. So first of all, if I say list, and what type of list I want to create? Employee. Again, the same class that I've created. So EMP list, I can call it, and new list of employee and not giving any size, I can just dynamically increase or decrease that one, right? Now, I want to add to this list, emp list.add. So, we have got this add function. And in this add, what we can do, we can just create again, by using that same object initializer syntax, we can just create an object. So employee, and not only employee, I'm just creating that employee into that one, right? So just to give something, ID equal to 1, comma, name equal to Alan, and for example, salary equal to 1000. I'll just, we'll just check for different things, comma remaining. And what is that last one? Experience equal to 4 or 3, whatever. All right, so we are just adding a new employee object into it, creating a new employee and adding to it. So let's just add a few more of them. And now just quickly change their data so that, and now this change this to John or Christina, whatever, change it to John and Alex, whatever, right? So now since we are doing something on the salary and we are checking less than 10,000, so let's make some of them more than 10,000. So Christina is more than 10,000. This one is also more than 10,000, and rest two are less than 10,000, right? And experience, let's change that experience as well with some of the values, 7 and this 10, whatever, right? So this is what we have just tried to add elements to our list, a new employee created and added to it, right? So now what I can do is that I can call the promote employee method by passing what? Emp list, the list that I've created. Now I'm passing this list to it, which has ID 1, 2, 3, 4, Alan, Christina, John, and Alex, salary something, and experience something. Let's see what happens. So you see, Alan and Alex promoted. What has happened? This function is called, this method is called by passing the list of it. It accepts that list, check for every employee, go into the salary of every employee. Wherever it finds a salary less than 10,000, it says that. So you see here, Alan and Alex. Interestingly, both of them have less than 10,000. Let me just make it a bit interesting so that our names do not collide with each other, and make it 16,000, right? So now, which two will get promoted? Of course, this Alan and John. Let's run that. So what it is doing, again, we are not using a delegate. And delegate, we will just say that what delegate will do us for us. So Alan promoted or John promoted. Understand, everyone? I hope you are getting the concept. And again, this all what we have done is that we have done before, like without using a delegate. What is happening here? We have hard-coded this logic over here. If you want to distribute this class to anyone and you want to say that I want to give you this class, and okay, so you have another company and you want to promote on the basis of experience. So some company says that we don't want to implement, or we don't want to promote someone on the basis of salary. Rather, we will say that if experience experience is greater than 5, then promote, otherwise not. So now this is not a generic class. You know what I mean? This has become a very specific class. This is implementing only on salary. If you want to share this file with someone, they will have to come over here and they will have to change the logic inside the class. So again, rather than allowing them, or rather than asking them to come to the class and changing the logic, what we do, we just try to do something very interesting. And what is that? We'll be just doing that through our as I said, through our delegate. So see here, now this example. So I am defining a delegate, right? And a delegate that will return a Boolean, and we are defining a function is promotable. Not function. We are defining a delegate with the name of is promotable. that will return a Boolean value, right? So it has to match a function that would return a Boolean value. And what it will accept? It will accept employee EMP list. Is that right? So it means this is a delegate which has, you know, its name is promotable. It will accept the employee object, and it will check that whether it is promotable, and if it will return a Boolean value. Is that right? Does that make sense? Now let's talk about this one. So this is one that will be doing over here. Now, if we talk about this promote employee method, and as I said, we want it to be a very generic method, and we want to maybe just define another method for every class that they can just, you know, use whatever class they want, and they can just, you know, implement that one. So if you see here that I don't want this method to be like, you know, the specific of this implementation. Rather, I want to check every employee with that generic you know, delegate being provided to us. So what I'll do, I'll just return, I'll just, you know, remove this from this part, and what I say is that I have to pass a delegate over here, you know, a delegate variable over here. You know what I mean? But we have to just pass a delegate. So now let's first of all come here and so let's come here and just, I'm just not calling this employee dot. So let's take this list as well, right? And we are just, you know, doing that list. So now what we are doing, let's create someone is promotable. What is that is promotable? This is my delegate that I've created is promotable, right? I'm making its reference variable is promotable, and you can say promotable value equal to new is promotable, right? So this is a delegate, and you remember what? So you remember that when we were using the last example, we set up a delegate to equal to a value. What we can also do is that we can pass, so this is promotable, is promotable, the name of the method that we want to access over here. For example, let me just tell you, promote. If I just do that promote, what I'm doing, I am saying that promote is a method. Can anyone out of you tell me what will be the signature of this promote method? Let me just, you know, so let's just talk about this. This promote, I'm talking about that this will be a method that this is promotable or promotable delegate will be pointing to. You are getting that? So this promote method. So I'm not declared this method. I will use that method. So what will be the you know, the signature? Okay, someone is there. Bool promote employee. Yes. So what will be that? It will be something like this. You remember? It will be accepting the employee object, and it will be returning a Boolean value. That's excellent. That's excellent. You've done that, right? And now, if you have to do that, it means you have to create that method. So let me just create that method. Okay. I'm just creating that method, and I'll have to create that out of the main class. So main method. So I've come out of the main method, and now I'm creating this method, public, right? Let's make it a static as well, so that we don't need to create that. And promote, we are creating the promote, and it will return what? Boolean, and it will accept what? Employee class object, EMP. Right? So it will return a Boolean value, and it will accept an employee object as mentioned by Rashmi. Excuse me. So basically, what is that? It's now this method will be the method that we can implement logic in. So for example, if I say if EMP dot experience is greater than 5, so now I'm not asking about the salary, rather I'm implementing a employee experience on the basis of experience. So you can do anything in. So return true, else return false. Now you see that this is a function which is separate from our logic. So our class is again all generic. If you talk about, this is all generic, and this logic, this method is now separate from us, this one. Is that clear to everyone? Everyone understand that? Now it means that now our method where we are, which we are making a generic, so this method now will not only accept the list of the employees, rather it will also accept one of the reference parameter of is promotable, which is our what? Delegate. We'll pass a delegate reference variable as well as here. I'll let you know what does that mean. Is eligible to promote. Now you see what is happening. We are passing two parameters over here. The first parameter is the list of employee, and the second parameter is basically our delegate reference variable, is eligible to promote. Why? Because on the basis of this method, and this is eligible to promote will be referring to what? This promote method. Bear in mind, this promote method we are talking about, right? So now come back over here, and now how will we be checking that one? This is interesting. How will we be checking that? We'll be checking is eligible to promote. Is that right? Is eligible to promote. Who? Employee. Which employee we are talking about? We are talking about from this complete list of that one. So it means that we are saying that if it is eligible to promote the employee, do what? You just initialize that. Okay, this bracket is repeated. Are you people getting that? What does that mean? This is an indirect way of saying that you just go to this delegate. This delegate is being passed over here. Is that right? Go to this delegate and pass this employee, whatever employee is coming. So first employee will come first, and then second, then third, then fourth. So whatever employee is coming, go to and check, is this promotable or not? What is this promotable? It's a delegate function. And how do we know that which function it is mentioning? How do we know that which function is mentioning? It is something different that we have done over here. We have done that promotable and new is promotable. Promote. We are saying that promote function will be called. Yes. So now if you see that we are calling that experience employee, it means that we are calling this function over here. Now, if that is the case, what we do is that we will be just asking it to that one, and not only this, now we'll be calling that function employee dot promote employee. And now here will be pass EMP list. You see that what is asking? EMP list, the list that we have created here, this one, EMP list. And also what we need to pass over here, this promotable, reference variable of our delegate, promotable. Now you see here, now let's run that one. If I've just got everything right. So you see John promoted, Alex promoted. And why John and Alex have promoted? Experience again. So what logic did I use? I used the logic experience is greater than 5. So those who have experience greater than 5. So if you see that John has experience of 7 and Alex has experience of 10. Now what is happening? Now I have got this function that I can just use this method where I can just implement my logic. And again, what you are doing, your class will remain a generic nature. You will just change the logic over here. So if I just change the logic over here, employee dot, again, I'm going back again to salary, is greater than, for example, 15,000, whatever. Is there any salary over there? If there is no salary, of course, it will return a false, or it won't promote anyone. Alex promoted. It means that Alex has a salary greater than 15,000. If you see here. Yeah, so Alex has a salary of 16,000. You got everyone? Now please listen. This is one of the advantage of delegates, using delegates over here, that delegates will give us this feature that now my class, which I was talking about over here, this class has gone all generic in nature, which has a method promote employee that will accept the list of employees, as well as that will accept our delegate. And this delegate, how do we know this delegate is referencing to what? In our main program, we'll create the delegate reference variable. and pass that function which we are calling with this delegate. Is that right? So it's almost the same to this one. If I do something like that, if I say promotable, so it's not allowing me. Why? Because we have not given its, maybe it's so promote. Let's see if it works fine, because it's just saying that is promotable does not contain a constructor that so we have not defined a constructor for that one. That's why it's not asking for that one. But is promotable, which we have just created, we have this is promotable is accepting this employee over here, right? So this is promotable is basically just asking for that. So now what we are saying that it is basically same to that we done. So if you want to just do that one, typically you can just do one thing, that you just pass a function over here, and this will become the pointer to that function, the promote function. Got everyone? Because I'm about to stop here now, because I want you people to just remember this till this point, and then so that just keep to this point. So everyone is clear about that? If you have any question, you can just ask, and I will share this file. And as I said, I will be sharing this will be the mid content, and then we'll be just talk about that what we'll have in our coming weeks after the student success. So any question thus far? Again, we are dead. We are all silent. Okay, Agriti, thank you very much. Rashmi, thank you very much. So now I've started to get response.